Happy Monday. I think we were just talking here about, is it Christmas break yet? If people are taking a week off, I know I'm feeling eager. Nice to see you. This busy last week before the holidays. We're going to put up a poll here in just a second because we have heard from a number of folks that Monday isn't the best day as everyone starts to gear up their week. So we wanted to do a poll on whether Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday would be people's preferred day. And so we'll just go with wherever we get the most votes. So in just a second here, Kevin's going to be putting up our poll, and then you can just select as many days as you like. Eric, you have a question for us?
No, I was just trying to figure out how to raise my hand, actually.
Oh, great.
So I could vote in the poll. So
bingo, you got it. Well, the poll will just be select a choice like fancy newfangled technology. So yeah, and Kevin, as soon as you feel ready to launch the poll, there we go. Just pick your day of the week. We're going to meet at 9 to 10:30 Mountain Time. We're going to keep that as our standing time before everyone gets caught up in their day. So welcome everybody that's just joining. We are taking a poll for when this community of practice can meet. Feel free to pick more than one day. We're also targeting the third week of the month, so you can begin to have that on your calendar, the third week of the month. And of course, we will have, it'll be just our luck and we'll have a tie. And then, I don't know, have to thumb wrestle it out somewhere about which day of the week to land on. Nice to see you all. Thanks for making time. I know Monday is a tough time sometimes to start off with a meeting with the rest of the week nipping at your heels. So we really appreciate you making the effort to come today. We are hoping to have a guest speaker, Kyle Spang. So hopefully that will work out. They had quite a busy and demanding job. So we are anticipating Kyle to join us soon. Great. Maybe while we're waiting and you're taking the poll, you could, what's your favorite holiday dessert? Your favorite holiday dessert? Feel free to drop that in the chat. I once asked this to a team of people and it just became the most fascinating conversation. I love pecan sandies. Like sometimes those are called, I think, Mexican Christmas cookies. Those are some of my favorites, like a shortbread. Yeah, Allison, took the words right out of my mouth. My grandmother used to make this chocolate pie that, like, when you ate it, you could just feel your teeth like rotting out of your head with every bite. It's just so sweet. Okay.
Whoa, shrimp jello. What was this? Shrimp jello?
Shrimp jello. Oh, Michael, you have to come off mute and tell us about this for like 30 seconds.
All right, I'll try and bust it out in 30 seconds. This comes from my great grandma. It's got lemon jello, and you put like chili powder in it or chili sauce and celery and little baby shrimp. And the shrimp sink to the bottom. The celery lays on top of that. The jello winds up tasting like a shrimp cocktail. And I show up at parties with shrimp jello, and people are like, "Dude, you're nuts!" And they wind up liking it. So
yeah,
nice
shrimp jello.
Nice. All right, thank you for that. I think we might end up getting some recipes out of this community of practice. Like, who knew? It's always a bonus thing. Okay, so I think we're going to move into just reviewing our agenda for the day and things like that. So we're going to end the poll now, but if you're coming in and you didn't get a chance to take the poll, we're going to do it again. So far, Thursday has a slight lead. So thank you for that, Kevin. And you can put up the slides for us. And just ask that you go on mute. And if we mute you, our apologies. It's Not that we don't want you speaking, or just maintaining audio quality for the rest of our community. All right. So welcome. This is actually meeting 2 of the Indian Child Welfare Act Community of Practice. Our first one was back in October. You can go to the next slide, Kevin. As host, I might be able to move them, but I'm not seeing the thing. There you go. So we started in October. That was our kickoff meeting and just getting oriented. We're going to continue in 2024, every other month, the 3rd week of the month. So our next one will be in February, then April, and then June. And then I think we're trying to figure out, do we take a summer break and what do we want as a community? That's for you to decide. So we'll figure that out and we'll let you know what day of the week one. Next slide. And I think just a reminder, since we're only in our 2nd meeting, there's a lot of activities and processes that as a community, we're still trying to figure out what we're doing. There is no core team or anyone else making decisions. So if you're looking for someone else to decide, you're going to be waiting for a long time. So what we're going to be doing together as a community over time is just figuring out these things. What are the learning goals? What are the activities that will really support our effort to achieve our purpose, to learn, to make the changes that we want to make? What's our rhythm? How does every other month work for 90 minutes? How are we going to communicate? We're going to experiment with some things today using Jamboard. How do we interact? What kind of collaboration is going to really help us? And how do we share our knowledge through resources of all kinds? And that will include, we need some kind of technical platform that we can work on together. So if it's feeling like things are not quite figured out, that's because they aren't. So we'll just keep pulling them together as we go. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just a review of what we're going to be doing today. First, up in the upper left-hand corner, if you are new here and would like to invite people, or even if you're not new here and you keep thinking of people you would like to invite, Julie Burke from the Montana Court Improvement Program. Julie just kind of waved off to the side there. There you go, Julie. Her email is there, so please email her and she will add the people you have in mind to the mailing list and they will get all of the announcements. And so today I just have a brief overview of the COP in more detail from Brooke. How did this thing come to be? We're going to also take a look at who's here and not here because we want to make sure that we have all of the voices and all of the people and stories and experiences and expertise as possible in the room. We'll talk about the Community of Practice purpose, which is a work in progress. We'll hear from Kyle Spang. And then we'll talk about design team. We always ask for a few volunteers to join one meeting to help us join up, plan the next one. And then we'll close. So that's our plan for the day. And so with that, I think we can go over to Brooke for the next little bit of our thing. Next slide, please, Kevin.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to see so many people on this call. I, as Shannon said, I know it is tough when we're trying to tackle our to-dos on a Monday. So I appreciate everyone attending this morning. So just briefly, and I think we did discuss this during our first meeting, but in case you missed it or are new to the group, Heather Webster, who is the supervising attorney of the DN unit in Yellowstone County. She and I are on the ICWA subcommittee through the Court Improvement Program, and both work in the ICWA Court and the ICWA Family Recovery Court in Yellowstone County. And so, but prior to that, we started in a pilot project with Justice Gustafson, and through that, really, I think, had an appreciation for the collaborative model in doing this work. This is hard work, this is difficult work, and anytime we can use collaboration, it's always better and more fulfilling. And as part of our work, one of the things that we would do is attend the annual Confederated Salish and Kootenai Conference. And they were gracious enough, those tribes, to hold this conference for many years. And we found that the conference was so helpful to our work in that it put all of the ICWA stakeholders together in a conference room where we were able to meet face to face and have conversations, not just about case specifics, but just to get to know each other. So it was a really neat opportunity for, agency attorneys to visit with tribal attorneys, and for tribal ICWA agents to meet face to face with state social workers. And everybody seemed to have the same sentiment that just coming together once a year really helped relationships and the practice. You leave a conference after you meet someone face to face, and you're more likely to call them up next time, right? Or texting them rather than just sending an email. So it really adds to the work. So the next conference, once Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes decided to not host that anymore, Heather and I went to the Pasquale Yaquis ICWA conference in Tucson, Arizona, which was also just fabulous. And so we came home from that and started talking to the CIP and saying, how can we carry this work forward? How can we really continue this collaborative model and incorporate this statewide for all stakeholders doing this work? And so I believe it was Andy Yost then who suggested an ICWA community of practice. And so that's how we got to this point. I think we can go to the next slide. Unless, Heather, you wanted to come off mute and say anything else about that.
Nope. I think you're saying it all. Good job.
Okay. And so what we are wanting to do is to meet every other month for 90 minutes. The academic definition of a community of practice, if you read some of the journal articles about it, is a group of people who share a concern or passion for something they do, and they want to learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. And as Shannon mentioned, we're still working on our specific mission with this ICWA community of practice. But for the time being, I think that we can all agree that what we're wanting to do is create a space where we can receive and share information. We'd like to engage in joint activities and discussion to carry this work forward. And what exactly that will mean will be decided by the group. Okay, next slide. So I gave you the academic definition of the community of practice. I think what's really important to mention about community of practice is that we be intentional about them. And what I mean by intentional is that they're member driven. And so importantly, we want this community of practice to be helpful to you and your practice. We want to be responsive to your needs and your wants individually and also as a group. So I think one of the wonderful things about community of practices is it creates a network. And it's an opportunity to build relationships. And I know I repeat this almost ad nauseum, but one thing that Judge Souza likes to say in our ICWA courts is more communication builds better relationships leads to more collaboration, and more collaboration leads to better outcomes. And so that's something that I hold pretty near and dear to my heart. And I am hopeful that we're going to find this in the ICWA community of practice. This work is so relational driven. It's not just the relationships between the states and tribes, which is, as anyone who knows me knows that that's absolutely near and dear to my heart and super important to this work we do. but it's the relationships between agency attorneys and social workers and CASAs and all of us who do this work, right? And the judges and the guardian ad litems, etc. And so this is just speaking for myself, but I think as we understand each other more and understand where we're coming from and those different perspectives, that's going to lead to more collaboration and better outcomes for the families that we're serving. So again, we want this to be member driven. So what does that mean for us as a group? Maybe that means this will lead to professional development opportunities. Maybe it will lead to specific affinity groups, such as a qualified expert witness affinity group within the COP. It might and hopefully will lead to developing a shared repertoire of resources and methods to address our workplace challenges. So that's kind of the overview of the ICWA community of practice. And I'm super excited to hear from all of you because without your feedback and participation, we wouldn't have a community of practice.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Really helpful just to ground us in what we're hoping to do here together. I was still on mute. Thank you, Brooke. There, I thought I'd press the button. Really good to get us grounded in what we're doing here together. I keep getting muted. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, so I'm trying. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, everybody. So let's move on. I'm feeling like, oh, I just want to send people into breakout rooms to start chatting and getting to know each other and doing introductions. That's going to happen in just a minute here as you get into some rooms. But I wanted to introduce you to our Jamboard. So if you're able to get on to the Jamboard, I dropped the link in the chat. And actually, Kevin, if you can take down this, and then if you can share screen of the Jamboard, or I can, if you need me to, maybe, not maybe, could you all give thumbs up either visually with your real thumb or using the thumbs up emoticon? Let us know if you can get in the Jamboard. Scott, are you able to get in or do you have a question? You're in. Great. Awesome. And I see people already starting to do. So we want to get a sense of what's the representation here in terms of what counties. And so you should be able to grab one of those little green dots and drag it on over to the county that you are here representing. And let's just begin to get a look at what our representation is in terms of perspective and experience from around the state. I'm enjoying that everybody is an animal too. So we're having a good animal migration along the way here. Things not native to Montana.
There's a question about multiple counties.
Oh, what about multiple counties? Drop a dot on whatever counties you are representing. Thank you, Georgette. And if you start running out of green dots, you can copy and paste those green dots. Thank you, Mina. You can also do what Mina is doing. I hope, Mina, let me know if I'm not saying your name correctly. Names are important. But you can put in Rosebud County, and then someone else might be able to move you there. I see a dot on Rosebud. Okay, great, Mina.
And Shannon, perhaps if we have folks who are not from Montana, I do see at least one person, they could drop that in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, please drop that in the chat. You can also use, if you look on the left-hand side, there's a box that has a T in it. You can grab that and type in where you are too. Depends on your comfort with this kind of technology. So either drop in the chat where you're representing. Thanks, Georgette. So we have also Bighorn and Yellowstone. So someone who knows how to move dots. I'm not currently in it at the moment, but we could move Bighorn and Yellowstone.
We have a
Looks like
couple
someone's-
people that have their hands raised.
Yeah, Allison. I don't know if you're just saying you got in or if you have a question for us.
Allison, you're muted.
Allison has the, I'm trying to figure out my Zoom look, so oh, she'll catch up with us. Oh, you're in. You're good. Okay. Good old Zoom. So if you live on Teams, it's like completely disorienting to get in here. All right. Okay, so what do we notice here about our representation? You can come off mute, say what you notice, or you can also type in the chat. Is this what you expected? Are you surprised? Seem to be missing the center of the state is one thing I'm noticing. Fergus, Judith Basin, Wheatland, Golden Valley. By the way, I should just say before I say anything ridiculous, I live in Seattle. So, maybe that's a national park. I don't know.
And Shannon, in the northwest corner of the state, Flathead County,
Yeah.
Sanders and Lake, and that's where CSKT is located in
Okay.
Lake County.
All right. Tribal maps are not included. Thank you so much, Sheldon. Is there, if you can come off mute, is there a way that we can represent those better or pull them in, or how should we address that?
Well, I bet there is a map online that we could find that would include tribal nations, and so I think would be important
Yeah,
to.
Yeah, this is an ICWA community after all. So actually that should be the
yeah.
one of the
And I
predominant
can work-
views.
This is Kevin, sorry. I can work with you afterwards and get that map for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sheldon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Okay, this Jamboard remains open to you in between. So for now, we'll be using Jamboard as our async. Oh wait, could you leave that up, Kevin? Thank you, because we're going to do one more thing. So that gives us a sense of what's happening around the state. But then you'll see if you click ahead to the next, if you use the arrows at the top of the Jamboard, you can click ahead to the next one. And so here we want to understand kind of the roles and or the identities that you are representing. And you can put as many flowers as you want. So if you're a judge and foster parent, then please put that in. We have also probably, if you could try and put your flowers not on top of the words, that would be lovely. Thank you. And then if you do not see a role or identity here that represents you, you can grab the text box and please type it in towards the bottom of the slide. Feel free to come off mute or use chat to tell us about important roles and identities that we need to have in the conversation if our ICWA practices and relationships and outcomes are going to, improve. Who needs to be here? Noticing we have foster parent and foster youth, important experiences and voices that are not in the room. Wondering if anyone has thoughts or wants to share about that. It's a hard room to be in some ways for folks. Want to stay aware of that. Georgette, I bet you somebody will move a flower for you on tribal attorney. Thank you. Other, great, Mina. So what role would I put down there? Would it be called QEW? Maybe you could put in the chat what you'd like us to be sure how we capture or name that role. Hi, Kelly, welcome. Yeah, for those coming in late, to be able to, there's a link up above. Let me drop it in the chat again for you to make sure you get access to the Jamboard. We're happy you're here. It's never any problem to show up late here. Thank you for coming and making time in your schedule. It's no joke to get to these things, so we're just so grateful. Okay, so my computer, there we go. Join the Jamboard. There's the link. Okay. Great. What do you all notice about who's here and who's not here? And who else needs to be here? So feel free to come off mute. Myron, tell us where to drag a flower and we'll make sure to drag a flower for you. Where shall we be taking it? What do you all notice about this?
Under tribal.
Tribal attorney? Tribal elected
No,
leadership?
just on ICWA representative. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you, Myron. And no young people. Where's the QEW? That didn't get added in. You're right, Roberta. So I'm going to make a note of it. This chat will be saved, but I'll also write it down and we'll make sure that that gets added in. I'm sorry you're not seeing that in real time. I'm not capable enough to both facilitate and write things on slides. There, QEW is showing up. Great, thank you. For those of you that know Andy, he hosts a lot of communities of practice, and he's the kind of guy that can like talk and type and advance slides and chat. It's amazing. That is not me. Indian families, yeah, great. People getting the hang of Jamboard. Yeah, thanks, Drew, for calling that out for sure. Definitely need those with lived experience. Okay, so kind of last call here on this slide for anything that you want to come off mute and share with the community. No thoughts, questions, concerns, all welcome.
Janet, I want to come off and talk about the lived experience piece. I do think
Thank you, Shayla.
Is sometimes an accessibility factor with these kind of meetings. I know, you know, with board service, that's always really difficult because a lot of the families we work with have kids, obviously. So childcare, things like that. So I'm not sure how we can look at addressing some of those barriers.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely be thinking about that. I'll put that in the chat just so I make sure it makes it into our notes. Thank you. Okay. All right. It seems like we could, you know, use some more folks in different places, some judges and tribal attorneys. I'm curious if service providers, you know, are important to anyone helping support the, ICWA at all. Does anyone have any perspective on that? Okay, so hang on to the Jamboard. Don't close that window because we will be using it in just a moment in breakout rooms where you will actually get a chance to talk to each other next. So Kevin, if you want to take these slides down, then we can put the other slides back up. An ICWA agent as a category. Thank you, Julie. Okay. So just want to set a little bit of context before I send you off to talk to each other about the purpose of the community of practice. So we can go to the next slide. We just went through that. So next slide. So this, I don't know So Brooke mentioned this as the core team was beginning to think about taking a more collaborative approach and really wanting to invite more people into the conversation. They just did some first thinking about, well, what would the purpose of the community of practice be? And they got to talking about it and landed on a draft purpose statement as a starting point to improve meaningful collaboration among Montana ICWA legal, social work, and tribal stakeholders to maintain Indian families. And we want to keep refining that here and making sure that it's really representing and that it's compelling, right? You have a lot of things on your plate. And so what's going to make it worthwhile to come here and take some time? So let's go to the next slide, because I know part of it is talking to each other and not listening to me. But to catch you up on some of the conversations in the breakout groups, is these were some of the things that resonated with people around meaningful collaboration was a good start, but there was some definition that was needed. And there were lots of questions too that came out of this. So we had people do some initial refinements. So next slide, we asked people, well, what would you change? And as we talked about what they would change, we wanted to give a little bit of framework so that a purpose statement is really powerful when it's concise and clear, right? And it's not a word salad that you've stuffed every last thing that you could possibly put into your purpose. So you really want to speak to like, why should this COP exist? Why should it gather? And so there's some action that you want to take. There's particular people, who do you want to be involved and in service to what outcome? So we give you those kind of three pieces to help keep those conversations focused together. And as people provided their feedback, I just took a crack. We had trouble technology-wise because we were using Google Slides. That's not available to a lot of people. So if you made a contribution and you don't see it in the next slide, so go ahead to the next slide. My sincere apologies. Please continue to put it in the chat and we'll keep working on the technology part. So these were some of the things that people wanted to change. They had some different ideas for what the action was, maintaining families, getting timely responses, who needed to be included, for who, and what the outcome and impact was. Breaking the cycle of addiction, we really need concrete strategies. We need a source of accountability. It's that part of maintaining it goes beyond maintain, it's healing, reunification, breaking generational trauma, connecting to culture and families. So here's the next slide. And so I just took a total stab at taking the suggestions that were made and putting together different purpose statements that you all can then get together and talk about. You don't have to adopt any single one of them. You can completely redo them, but just as a starting point for how this might sound. So we're going to send you into breakout rooms. Next slide, Kevin, you're probably multitasking at this point. To review the purpose statements and to pick or revise one to describe why this group should exist and meet. Okay, so in the Jamboard, you will find 11 breakout slides, and whichever one corresponds to your room, you all can work in that group. And if some of you don't have access to the Jamboard, then hopefully someone in your room will. And if not, just use a good old pen and paper and we can take advantage of the chat. So any questions about what we'll be doing for the next, you're gonna have 15 minutes in your breakout room. Any questions? Be sure to introduce yourselves as you get in there and enjoy your conversations. And Kevin, are we ready for breakout rooms?
Okay, here they come.
Right. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully it wasn't mid-sentence. It usually is the most important sentence.
Before the hearing so that we could discuss and collaborate whatever needed to be done, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if someone's speaking to the group or was someone sharing to the group?
I don't know.
Okay, great. It happens on a big call like this. Thank you. All right, everybody. What I'd love to do is just be able to spend a few moments. It looks like our guest speaker is not able to make it so far anyway. And so I also just want to take a moment to pause and send Kyle Spang some well wishes. I mean, who knows what's happening in someone's life. So
Have you
take a
heard
breath.
from it? Oh,
I have not. Julie, have you?
no, I don't think so. Hang on. I can't, it's hard for me to look at my, no,
Okay. Well, let's just all send her well wishes. Well, thank you, Brooke and Georgette, agreeing to speak. I was thinking, let's talk about purpose a little bit. I bet you that's going to take our time, and since we have it, let's do it. And Georgette, could we have you speak at a future one? We would love to have you.
Oh, is this where, so Brooke had asked me to say a few words. Is this what you're asking me to do at this point? I'm not sure.
No, sorry, Georgette, asking you to say a few words at a future point, or maybe before we get off the call here, but I want to have a chance to hear what people talked about in their purpose conversations.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you for volunteering though. All right, this is an important community conversation because our purpose statement begins to also suggest like who needs to be here and what are the actions we're going to take. So love to hear from folks, starting with breakout room 1. If someone from that room, Shameen, Grace, Heather, Kirsta, or Shayla, would mind taking about 1 minute to share, 2 minutes with us to share what you talked about.
Yeah, I'll jump on. So this is Shayla. So this wasn't actually our one that was put up here. So I think someone else used our board. So I'll kind of tell folks kind of what we talked about. So we did like 3, which is improve meaningful collaboration among Montana ICWA, legal, social work, tribal stakeholders, BIA, people with lived experience in Indian families to maintain Indian families and their connection to their culture. We really liked how this was about lived experience and then also connection to culture. So we went back and forth between a few of them. We looked at the 4th one down a lot as well. But we felt like that 3rd was connecting people with lived experience to create some solutions.
Thanks, Shayla. Kevin, can you go back a board to board 5?
Sure.
So we
yeah,
just
sorry.
can see what she's referring to. Thank you.
So the 3rd one down.
The 3rd one down was having the most resonance for you this time around.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Room 2. Sherry or Cherie, Colette, Eric, Sheldon, or Valerie, if someone would be willing to share with us what feels important to you all. Eric, would you be
Hello.
willing? Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
No, nobody's really jumping in, so I'll jump in. I'm Colette Davies. We actually talked about quite a few different ideas about improving and sharing knowledge and access. We had folks from CASA, we had Casey Family Programs, we had somebody from the department. I'm a district judge, and so we all had, and a prosecutor, and certainly there's a lot of different perspective, and that brings different, I guess, knowledge vacuums that people are looking to fill. And a kind of consistent theme is data and knowledge about programming available and how to plug people into that programming, and making sure that it's not just, a group of, 35 individuals sharing, just their actual perspective, but, digging into the science as well as figuring out how to share that on a broader scale so that this is actually making impact.
Thank you, Colette. Wow, that was quite a range of perspective you had in one room. That's great.
It was great.
Yeah, thank you. And that was it sounds like in some ways you're suggesting important activities, or does the data feel like something that needs to be like why we exist as a community is too?
I think that, well, the data part is making sure that we know the outcomes that we're obtaining and making sure that we're making an impactful difference, that we're applying the ICWA to get the best results and not, to track and monitor our impact.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. So the use of data is really important and also can be part of the activities and learning. So both as a point of accountability and outcome and learning, it sounds like all three. Would you say that's a fair representation, Colette?
Right. But I think one of our biggest things is how to make sure that this is impacting beyond just, a group of people who are interested, to make sure that the impact gets, broader than this small community, to actually get that message out, to work with, providers that are in healthcare or whatever, and making sure that they know the resources that are available, trying to make sure that the whole community has access, and that we know of what community access there is. I mean, it's great to sit here in a group and chat, but it has to actually leave this chat and work on a broader scale, if that makes sense.
Great. Yeah. Just taking a note. Thanks, Colette, for bringing in that important part of this, and everyone else in your group. Thank you. And so room 3, Catherine, Katie, Carrera, and Mina, if one of you would jump in and tell us about your conversation in breakout 3 would be lovely. I'll give you a second and then I will request one of you.
I'll go ahead and I would encourage Mina or Katie to jump in just with anything else. I didn't take a ton of good notes, but it was an awesome conversation. I don't know that we reviewed I don't know if we picked the right one, but we were group 3. And I think we agreed that we liked the statement as written. I don't know if we're allowed to do that.
Totally.
I don't know that we had any, we should change that part of it. But when it came to action, who, and outcome, yeah, absolutely maintain Indian families. But we kind of discussed, how do we do that? What does that mean? Is that, collaboration? And I think our conversation was great because it really focused on family. And not just the legal case, not just the family, all of it, not just blood relatives, tribal connections, like the broader term of family, and how do we improve communication with family, and how do we really try to get involvement and buy-in.
Thank you. Anyone else from Katie, Carrera, Amina, anything to add in?
I think, well, we didn't change anything. At least for myself, what I learned in the breakout room was the importance of incorporating lived experience into this.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Okay, Kevin, let's go ahead. Let's see, can you go to breakout room 4 board? Let's see if there's anything written there. There is. It may be their Post-its because Jamboard people are still figuring out. So Allison, Drew, Kimmy, and Michael, would one of you please share with us your conversation? I think Michael already told us about shrimp. So I'd love to hear from, Kimmy, Drew, or Allison about your conversation.
We, and to save Kimmy's voice, but the rest of my team is welcome to jump in anytime. I think one of the things that we brought up was what does maintain Indian families look like, and how can we expand that into empowering or strengthening or growing resiliency was a big part of our conversation. And also just under the who, adding CASA and GAL. And I feel like I'm missing a part of that, another part of our conversation. We did have some good conversation about processes and activities and who to include.
Great. And as much as you can either put that in the Jamboard, Drew and the rest of your folks, or drop it in the chat, you can mess up this Jamboard all y'all like. Please mess it up and put all your contributions in there. That would be lovely. Allison.
Well, yeah, just one point was suggested that we change stakeholders to partners.
Powerful change. Thank you. All right. Okay, room 5. April, Kate, Michaela, and Mike. Love to hear from one of you. Just jump on in. This is a case of not.
Kate.
Thanks,
Hello.
Kate.
Hey. And please feel free, anybody, if I missed something, but I did take some notes. We didn't kind of type in on our Jamboard. I think we're kind of all kind of new to that. So anyway, we talked a lot about representation. A question like who's invited? How do we know who's been invited to participate? And if there was a list that we could see if there's somebody we felt we could add, or if they've already been invited. Then we talked about barriers to participating. Some people aren't good with technology or have the access to use it. Also, Monday mornings are really difficult, can be a difficult time. And there was discussion about maybe there's an overrepresentation of state employees and that they have a different perspective versus people with lived experience. Let's see. Yeah, I think really needing people that are out there working like foster placement, having them having licensing, making sure licensing is available and participating.
Thank you. Great. Okay. A lot. You guys covered a lot of ground. Thank you. Hey, room 6, Jen, Michaela, Roberta. Love to hear. Looks like you all got some things figured out on Jamboard. This is always the case if I don't want to speak, but is anybody willing to share what you all talked about?
I can. So we overall, I think, like the statement, didn't find anything necessarily wrong. We just thought maybe tweaking it a little bit to include that we want to promote cultural sensitivity and always be learning and employing that when we're working with families. And then we broadened from Montana ICWA legal to Montana legal, because at times people that might not be totally invested in ICWA work or encountering it on the daily, I think, before long, they might, even if they're representing an incarcerated parent. Native American parents are also overrepresented in the prison population and then that system. So that is important that many people that are incarcerated may also have cases with our department. So we, having this whole legal community in Montana, at least somewhat aware of ICWA and talking to each other. And then also we thought empower was, to empower Indian families, because maintain is kind of like, I think, the social worker term. And even if a family can't be maintained through reunification, or if a case takes a different route, they're still family. And so I didn't care much for the word maintain. We talked about strengthen, but then that somewhat insinuated that maybe a family was weak, and we don't want that. So we thought empower was a good word, because we want those families to take what the system has assisted them with and make sure that they're empowered by that, and that they're able to proceed and use those services and build natural supports and things like that.
Great. Thank you for jumping in. Important changes. All right. Georgette, Julie, Kelly, and Scott. What did you all talk about?
Georgette, I think you should represent us.
Oh gosh, okay, but we were the ones who accidentally used breakout.
Oh, no worries. All right, which one did you use? Breakout one. No worries.
So we were the ones who accidentally used the wrong breakout room. Again, sort of figuring out the technology. We wanted to get really concrete on the outcome. And I guess similar to, I think it was group 3, like, what does it mean to help Indian families, so that, we also wanted to make sure we had some real outcomes out of this group versus just talking. So that's why we added the healing, reunification, breaking generational trauma and cycles of addiction. And the other members in the group, accountability also felt really important as part of this. And then we went down to stakeholders, because we were trying to figure out a way to keep it concise. And we felt like stakeholders, that can include so many people, that we thought that would be the area where you could really get the word soup and get lost, because we wanted that to be as broad and inclusive as possible. And we took out Montana because we thought it was kind of implied as the Montana ICWA community of practice. So
thank you.
Anybody else from our group want to add if I didn't capture anything?
I want to say the last group that used replaced maintain with empower. I think that would be a good change to what we did in our group. I don't know what you think about that, Julie, Georgette, or Kelly.
I like that. I like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you all. Okay. And last but not least, I think we can take the slides down, Kevin. And we have Brooke and Krista, John, and Myron, who would be willing to share your conversation, please. Myron, would you be willing to share? I'd love to hear from you. Are you still here? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
No.
There we go. Now we got you.
Yeah. This is the first one I attended, so I'm trying to learn, what's going on, and I have questions, but I think a lot of them were answered, but I haven't.
Great.
I had a question about the different, what's called, they should be more combined, and rather how they had them listed, I guess. And I seen some of the stuff that came up, and they kind of condensed them, so.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you're not alone, Myron, in trying to figure out what's going on. I'm sure you're not the only first person attending for the first time. Thanks for speaking. Anyone else from that group want to share anything about your purpose statement revisions or adoptions? John, would you be willing to share a quick synopsis?
Me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I guess the thing that struck us as a group is that we didn't want to lose any of the things that had been suggested in the various different purpose statements. And the thought was that maybe a purpose statement should be something very brief, and that all of these ideas about engaging, healing, and things of those nature should go into, like, if there's some kind of subcategory, like an outline, to keep those ideas and not toss them by the wayside and decide we have to be one thing or another. So I guess that came up in our discussion.
Yeah, thank you, John. A lot of times the things listed in there can become like goals, like why we exist is to, empower Indian families. And then here are some of the goals or the primary activities that this group attends to, right? So it could be some of those things become encapsulated that way, so they don't get lost. So great, thank you all. I was sorry to miss Kyle, and it was so nice to have this time to give you more time in the conversations and to hear. So for next steps, I'll gather these back together. I think we're kind of coming down to a couple here, and I'll bring those to the meeting in February for you. What we'll do now is, before people have to leave, let's pop the poll back up, Kyle, for just a few moments on the day of the week. So we're aiming for the third week for these meetings. Third week of the month in February, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Pick as many as you like when the poll pops up. And while you're thinking about that, we will also begin to think about our design team. So it's, as Brooke was saying, this is a member-created, member-driven activity. And so we would like to ask for 3 folks to join us for the next design team meeting, where we talk about what should we do in these meetings. What's our learning from this meeting? My learning from this meeting is, as lovely as it would have been to have Kyle, we needed this time to talk and be able to be in breakout rooms and even have more participation than we had, is one of my learnings. So the design team is going to be on, if you can multitask, Kevin, I'm asking a lot, to put the slides up and go to the one that shows the design team. The design team is meeting on Tuesday, January 16th. If we can remember anything about this meeting, take notes. From 9 to 10. And it is a one-time thing. You're not signing up for perpetuity, but you're just signing up for this one meeting where we just get together and talk. So I'll be there, Julie will be there, and we would love it if 3 others would be there.
And I think it's okay, Shannon, if more people.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We need a minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3. Thank you. I'll change that slide. So you're welcome to come off mute and say you'll join us, or you can type in the chat after you look at your calendar. I'd love to have you.
I can be there.
Thank you. Who just said that?
This is Michaela from Billings.
Thank you, Michaela. That would be great. Thank you for joining. While people are thinking, the Jamboard link is there for you to use. We'll send it out in follow-up notes in case you lose track of it. At the very end of the Jamboard on board 17 and 18, thanks, Kelly, you'll see some of the ideas for what people would like to cover. And then you'll also see 2 empty boards that ask for your continuing ideas of topics, especially given conversations today. And not just topics. We don't want this to be presentation. We want it to be much more of a let's get in breakout rooms and let's talk about what does it mean to heal? What does it mean to be a partner? So any of these things that you, the questions that you're holding are great conversation topics. And Allison, so Kelly, Allison, and Michaela, lovely.
Any other?
And any others?
This is Georgette. I figure I'd be as part of it if you
Well,
know.
that would be
Lovely.
good.
Yeah, especially Georgette, since you were generous, made the generous offer to talk with the group. So that would be lovely. Please do join us. And I think, Kevin, we can last call on the poll, everybody. Okay, and then we're coming down to our closing time together already. So what is the next slide? I think Thursday is our winner, if I'm remembering from our poll when we started the meeting. Great. Okay, and so just by way of quick evaluation, we would love to do using the chat on a scale of 1 to 5. To what degree was this meeting worth your time? 1 would be not worth it. 5 would be totally worth it. And we'd love to know what would make it worth your time. So none of us here will be offended if it's 1. We just don't want you to disappear. We would instead love to hear what it is that would make it worth it. I think more conversation for sure, more sharing that knowledge. Bringing together lived experience and data. You know, sometimes I bring the data together and it just completely changes what I was thinking or what I thought was important or what I was missing. Great. Thank you all. Takes a while to get up off the ground. I know some people really like to jump to action and like, let's get busy and let's make change. So the first couple of meetings might feel more lower in pace for some folks, just to hang in. And then one last thing, on a scale of 1 to 5, how was the format? And so I would describe the format as a little bit of interactive, nonverbal stuff using the slides and then breakout room discussion and then some report out. So how was the format? 1 was didn't like it, didn't serve me. 5 is loved it, this worked well. And if you have changes, please do suggest them so that our design team can start to integrate them. Hopefully changing to Thursday will help folks. And anything that anyone wants to say for like the good of the community here, I'll stop taking up space and leave some room. So any questions, thoughts, important things that people would like to say to each other in parting?
Shannon, can I say something?
Of course, Julie.
There was a comment in the chat earlier about who we've invited to this. And we can figure out, I can send an email to all of you and just list you, but how we first came up with the list was before we even got Shannon involved, when we had a design team and Heather and Brooke were on there, and I can't even remember who all, we had about 10 people. Lana Page, who's a tribal attorney with CSKT, was on it. And we kind of brainstormed and people just emailed me their lists of possible people they wanted to participate. And then using that, I sent out emails, and there's about 70 people. And I can send you, and so I always ask if you have other people that you want me to invite, please email me with their names and email addresses, and I will do that. Because our list, obviously, there's probably lots of people that we could invite, but we haven't, because we don't I don't know about them. So.
Thanks, Julie.
But I was saying to I think I was saying to Shannon and Kevin at the beginning, out of the about approximately 70 people, I would say about 30 are affiliated with a Montana tribe. So Shannon and I can talk about how I best share the list with you, or I just email you.
Mm-hmm.
And just.
Other thoughts, suggestions? And then just by way of checkout, if you want to drop a word or phrase in the chat that, how are you leaving feeling? I'm leaving feeling ... Complete the sentence. I'm leaving feeling ... Hopefully the meetings you leave feeling better than when you arrived. I'm proud that so many folks across Montana are engaged and encouraged. Great. Yeah, small feat to get together. I hear you, Georgette. Jump to action. Yeah. Spending this time building relationship across the community so that we can jump to action, right? You have that relationship there to support you, committed, hopeful. Yeah, and just be really thinking about what's needed to keep the hope and get to the actions that you all want. Bless you. All right, everybody. Wishing you happy holidays. Thanks, Roberta, for QEW subgroup. Happy holidays. I think for those that were here for the beginning, we have great desserts and shrimp jello brought to you by Michael. So that will be a new one. So however you celebrate, wishing you a happy holidays. May they be relaxing and renewing for you. We'll be in touch and look forward to seeing you in February.